Dear Chosen One, the contract was signed beneath the cover of silence. While the nations slept and the people looked to leaders for light, the keepers of power knelt before the agenda of darkness. They exchanged justice for control, faith for influence, and truth for manipulation. The government that once stood as a guardian of order now serves the very chaos it vowed to destroy. But the heavens keep records even of unseen agreements. The ink of deception has cried out, and heaven has answered. It has sent you. You were born for this hour, to be the instrument through which truth interrupts the lies written against creation. You were not sent to protest powerless. You were sent to dismantle. The enemy called this contract eternal, believing that fear could hold dominion over divine will. But what is forged in fraud cannot outlast the word that formed the universe. You carry that word. Every decree built on corruption trembles in your presence because authority flows through you, not political power, but divine permission. You are the disruption that darkness did not predict, the living manifestation of heaven's legal right to revoke every false covenant written over humanity. The throne of the world now trembles because you have awakened to remembrance. The code of chains is breaking, not by force, but by revelation. Each truth unveiled within you burns through lies that held generations captive. You were never meant to bow to systems built on deceit. You were born to outshine, outlast, and outlove them. The flame inside you is the cancellation seal itself, proof that darkness never owned what God has claimed. Remember, the system's power ends the moment light enters the room, and you are that light, divinely sent to end what should never have begun. Before we delve into the revelation, take a moment to align your actions with your awakening. Like this video, subscribe to join the Army of Light, and comment below with the words, "I cancel the contract," to seal your declaration before heaven and earth. And if you seek to walk this path of divine abundance and practice, acquire your copy of The Call to Prosperity, 10 clear steps that align your spirit, your finances, and your purpose with divine order. It's not theory, it's transformation, designed for those who know they're meant to prosper under heaven's hand. The link is in the description and in the first pinned comment. Click there and take the step into the abundance already waiting for you. The system was not born evil, but it became infected by pride. What was built to protect began to consume, and what was meant to lead learned to dominate. Power turned into addiction, and the hearts of rulers hardened against compassion. They learned to call control peace, to disguise oppression as safety, and to silence prophets with policy. Yet the divine eye never closed. Nothing hidden escapes eternal sight. Heaven has observed every decree that traded justice for convenience. And now, judgment begins where power thought itself untouchable. The betrayal of authorities was not immediate. It crept in like fog. One choice at a time, light was exchanged for influence, virtue for vanity. They vowed loyalty not to the people, but to the shadows that whisper in their courts. And those shadows feed on fear, drawing strength from every soul that believes the lie that says, "Nothing can change." But something can, because heaven has placed one voice in this era that will not bend. The Chosen One rises from silence, carrying fire not of rebellion, but of revelation. Truth disrupts comfort. When spoken by divine authority, it exposes foundations built on deceit, forcing them to crumble under their own weight. The enemy's structure resists revelation because exposure is its death sentence. Yet every time light is spoken, one more layer of deception shatters. The Chosen One was not made to argue with darkness, but to outshine it. His presence is confrontation enough. His words are thunder that splits the silence of compliance. Through him, the spiritual system begins to shake. The people have lived too long under the illusion of safety. They accepted chains wrapped in velvet, contracts signed in ignorance, and obedience disguised as virtue. The government whispers that submission is peace, but heaven calls it paralysis. The Chosen One feels what others ignore, the vibration of spiritual decay beneath laws that sound righteous but breathe control. His mission begins not with anger, but with awareness. Before canceling the contract above, he must discern the contracts within. To undo the external bondage, the internal agreements must first be broken. He confronts fear, pride, and self-doubt. These are the signatures that tie humanity to invisible masters. Heaven teaches him through silence, reminding that power without purity only recreates tyranny. As he surrenders, a purging begins. The same light that exposes others begins to cleanse him. Revelation hurts before it heals, but truth cannot dwell beside corruption. What begins as a shaking ends as purification. The enemy's weapon is not strength, it is distraction. Fear disguises itself as duty, and lies take the form of logic. The system keeps the masses busy building towers that reach nowhere. But the Chosen One is not fooled. He sees through the veil of urgency and recognizes the deeper war, one fought not over nations, but over perception. For every eye that opens, the enemy loses territory. Knowledge is rebellion in the kingdom of deception. The descent begins. It is not a fall of defeat, but of depth. Every prophet must walk through the valley before claiming the mountain. Darkness tests the authenticity of light. The Chosen One feels isolated. Even heaven's silence seems heavy. But this silence is not absence. It is focus. The divine is sharpening his spirit for precision. In the stillness, he hears the echo of purpose saying, "Do not fear the valley. The contract is dissolving even as you walk through it." Then comes the moment of divine encounter. The voice that once whispered now roars. It declares that what was signed in darkness will be cancelled in the light. The Chosen One realizes the battle is not against people, but spiritual structures built on collective belief. The war is fought with words aligned with truth, and every time he speaks faith, another link breaks. Heaven has given him authority not to plead for change, but to enforce it through revelation. Heaven reveals the code. Fear is the binding clause of every false contract. When fear is broken, the pact collapses. Humanity's obedience to deception is not voluntary. It is inherited. The Chosen One was born to interrupt that inheritance. Love, declared with conviction, becomes a legal act in spiritual realms. The more he loves without fear, the weaker the enemy becomes. What was once written in secrecy begins to unravel in exposure. The first miracle unfolds quietly. No thunder, no storm, only peace where anxiety ruled. People around him start to feel lighter, their thoughts clearer. They cannot explain it, but something unseen has shifted. Chains have broken without sound. Heaven celebrates in silence, while earthly systems sense instability. Every liberated mind is an earthquake to the empire of control. Freedom spreads faster than resistance can respond. The Chosen One now understands his authority. It was never about status or power, but alignment with truth. The voice within him grows louder than the noise of the world. He speaks, and what he declares in faith begins to manifest. The oppressed awaken, the atmosphere shifts, and opposition trembles. The mission transforms from survival into dominion. The government that once symbolized bondage becomes witness to the power it tried to suppress. But the awakening spreads, and not all welcome it. Shadows fight back. Propaganda rises. Those who profit from deception launch a storm of confusion. Media turns truth into rumor, hope into fear. Yet every attack confirms the prophecy that the system feels threatened by light. The chosen one does not retreat. He stands firm, anchored in identity. Light never argues with darkness. It simply shines until darkness ceases to exist. When fear fails, chaos is the final weapon. Division, doubt, and noise surge like waves. But the chosen one knows storms are not punishment, they are purification. Every wave that rises reveals what was hidden below. In the chaos, truth becomes visible. Revelation burns brighter through resistance. He walks untouched in the center of the storm, for his confidence is not in calmness, but in covenant. What God sent cannot be drowned. The resistance transforms him. What was once prophetic courage becomes divine tranquility. The chosen one moves with the composure of one who has already seen the end. He knows victory is not earned. It is inherited. The war is already decided. The contract already signed by light, not by darkness. Every action he takes now is execution of that heavenly verdict. The undoing is almost complete. Heaven prepares the battlefield for the final confrontation. The chosen one stands at the edge of a crumbling world system, eyes locked on the source of deception. This is not a fight of fists or armies. It is a duel between covenants. The altar of lies quivers before the presence of truth. Every deception built by human pride begins to melt under divine authority. The enemy watches in panic, for he knows the verdict cannot be appealed. The voice that created the stars now speaks through the awakened. As the confrontation begins, time slows. The atmosphere thickens with power, the unseen trembling, as light meets darkness head-on. The chosen one raises his voice, not in anger, but in decree. Each word dismantles false foundations. Each breath declares freedom. The sound of truth echoes through realms beyond sight. No spell, no law, no illusion can resist revelation. The contract, once thought eternal, begins to burn in invisible fire. The enemy's hold collapses not through battle, but obedience to divine command. The undoing is total. The invisible chains that bound generations crumble one by one, falling into ashes of forgotten fear. What rulers built for centuries dissolves in moments, undone by truth's simplicity. Freedom is not won through conquest, but through alignment. Heaven does not fight darkness, it replaces it. The chosen one stands still, watching as every shadow flees from the light within him. It is finished, yet it feels only like the beginning. Heaven rejoices, but the earth remains silent. Transformation always begins unseen, growing beneath the surface before reaching the masses. The chosen one walks among people who sense change, but cannot yet define it. Systems begin to lose control. Fear no longer works as before. The currency of manipulation loses value when truth enters circulation. Humanity exhales for the first time in centuries, even if it doesn't fully understand why. The invisible weight starts to lift. The voices that once mocked now tremble. Those who worshipped the false order see its collapse in real time. Confusion spreads, but so does awakening. The chosen one knows that destruction is not the end, it is cleansing. Heaven never erases purpose, it restores it. Amid rubble and reform, humanity rediscovers its divine instinct to seek truth over comfort and authenticity over approval. The empire of lies ends not with explosion, but with evaporation. The Chosen One does not claim victory. He witnesses it. His purpose was never to be celebrated, but to awaken remembrance. As he looks at the remnants of what fell, he sees patterns, warnings, and lessons. The fall of corrupted systems is not a tragedy, but testimony. Every false structure must fall for truth to rebuild. In their collapse, heaven lays the foundation of renewal. The true kingdom emerges not from politics, but from purified souls united in alignment. Then comes the stillness after the storm, the sacred silence that follows divine intervention. The air feels lighter, the world somehow clearer. Humanity's rhythm shifts subtly toward compassion. Justice becomes more than a word. It becomes movement. The Chosen One senses that the undoing was not just external. Inside him, too, the last remnants of doubt have dissolved. His voice is calm, but his presence radiates power that words cannot capture. Heaven begins to reveal the next layer of understanding. The undoing was never about destruction, but restoration of order. The old contract represented not only corruption, but ignorance. Now, revelation demands responsibility. Freedom cannot survive without awareness. The Chosen One realizes he must teach others to live in truth, to guard it from returning into the hands of deceit. Light is eternal, but vigilance is its guardian. Purpose transforms into legacy. The world around him begins to shift once again, but this time through creation, not collapse. Artists, leaders, and visionaries awaken, remembering who they are beyond systems. The energy of renewal spreads like wildfire, touching homes, hearts, and borders. Humanity begins to build differently, not from fear, but from faith. This new era is not ruled by governance, but guided by conscience infused with divine awareness. The prophecy of undoing turns into the song of restoration. Still, resistance lingers. Darkness, though defeated, whispers through distraction. It calls some back to comfort, urging forgetfulness. But the Chosen One walks among them as a living reminder of what was overcome. His truth exposes even the faintest illusion. Wherever he steps, deception loses its shape. People begin to remember again who they were and who they are meant to become. Awakening is no longer a moment. It becomes a movement. The divine voice speaks again, softer this time, filled with final instruction. You have undone the lie. Now rebuild the truth. With that command, the Chosen One turns his mission inward once more. He teaches that liberation is not an event. It is a lifestyle. Every act of kindness, every honest word, every prayer spoken in faith renews creation. Heaven's justice echoes quietly now, not in thunder, but in transformation. Gratitude floods his spirit. For the first time, he feels truly human and divine at once. The power that once roared through him now flows gently like a river of peace. He realizes that divine authority is not domination, but harmony. The greatest victory is balance, a world aligned again with its creator's original melody. The contract was canceled, but the relationship restored. This is not the end of war, but the beginning of peace built on discernment. The Chosen One looks around and sees others awakening to their callings. They too begin to tear away the residues of deception left in their own lives. Each person who walks in truth becomes a reflection of heaven's will on earth. The movement is unstoppable, not because of force, but because it mirrors divine desire. What was once a lone mission now becomes collective destiny. Revelation has multiplied. With a final breath of awe, the Chosen One raises his eyes to heaven. There is no crown, no applause, only understanding. The true reward of obedience is peace, the kind the world cannot counterfeit. The undoing is complete, but its echo continues in every heart that chooses truth. Heaven smiles, not because evil was vanquished, but because light remembered its name. The contract is gone, but the covenant stands eternal. The renewal spreads beyond sight. Across nations, light awakens in quiet corners of the earth, in hearts that once felt forgotten. People rise not through power, but through conviction. Systems falter, but souls begin to flourish. The message of the Chosen One becomes a vibration felt across time zones and tongues. It speaks of responsibility, courage, and divine alignment. Every whisper of truth creates ripples that turn into waves. The undoing was never isolated. It was a spark that ignited a global remembrance. Heaven watches the unfolding with serenity. Angels record not victories, but awakenings. Every heart that breaks free is like a seed taking root in sacred soil. The Chosen One understands that restoration is not a moment, but a rhythm that must be sustained. He teaches that freedom is fragile when disconnected from purpose. So, he begins to mentor others, not as master, but as mirror. Each lesson he gives reminds humanity that revelation is a cycle meant to multiply, not to end. The new world is not utopia, it is honest. Mistakes still happen, but they are met with awareness, not shame. The people learn to govern through integrity rather than influence. Leaders are no longer chosen by manipulation, but by wisdom. Truth becomes standard again, not a rebellion. The Chosen One walks among them unseen, smiling. His mission succeeds when it no longer depends on him. Heaven's greatest victory is when humanity carries the torch willingly. Old structures attempt to rise once more. Power never fades quietly. It disguises itself, waiting for fatigue to set in. The Chosen One perceives this and warns the awakened not to idolize the messenger, but to embody the message. Guard your truth, he says, for deception waits for distraction. The people listen, sensing that vigilance is love in motion. The enemy now hides not in the open, but in human forgetfulness. Awareness becomes the new shield. Night falls again, but this time the darkness is different. It feels thinner, weaker, almost transparent. Truth has scarred it permanently. The world still wrestles with chaos, but there is direction in the struggle now. Every trial becomes refinement. Every challenge a test of persistence. The Chosen One feels peace amidst paradox. Light is not the absence of darkness. It is mastery over it. And that mastery has now been taught to an entire generation. A new sound fills the atmosphere. An anthem of redemption sung not by choirs, but by actions. Nations begin to cooperate, driven by shared inner conviction rather than politics. Economies shift subtly toward fairness. Communities rebuild what was broken without waiting for permission. The undoing of evil leads to the reconstruction of good. Hope ceases to be an emotion. It becomes a principle, a law of the redeemed earth. Heaven delights in watching love rewrite systems from within. In this new era, spiritual warfare changes shape. It is no longer waged through confrontation, but cultivation. The Chosen One reminds humanity that light must be maintained like fire. It needs fuel, direction, and discipline. Prayer becomes not pleading, but partnership with heaven. Humanity learns to speak with the Creator again, not through fear, but through intimacy. The contract of control has given way to the covenant of cooperation. As the years pass, the Chosen One's role evolves, from warrior to teacher, from prophet to mentor. He becomes a quiet guardian of truth rather than its loud defender. The generation he awakened carries the banner of discernment. Children grow up understanding that fear is not part of their inheritance. The world feels lighter, wiser, more aligned. Heaven's silence now means trust, for earth has learned to listen. The undone contract becomes a sacred story, told through gratitude. But even peace births challenge. Success has its own seduction. Prosperity tempts humanity to settle, to forget the cost of awakening. Yet the Chosen One remains vigilant, reminding them gently that light's duty is perpetual. Comfort cannot become complacency. He teaches that every generation must choose truth again. It cannot be inherited, only embraced. The undoing of deception requires eternal awareness, renewed daily through gratitude and courage. Heaven gives him another revelation. The greatest danger after deliverance is ease. When people stop searching, darkness starts whispering again. The solution is simple but profound: constant communion. The Chosen One cultivates joy not as entertainment, but as spiritual discipline. Joy, he teaches, is rebellion against despair. Laughter becomes praise, generosity a weapon. Through simplicity, the sacred balance is preserved. Light thrives where peace and purpose coexist. He returns often to the places where the old system once ruled. The ruins remind him not of pain, but of progress. People plant gardens over ashes, schools rise where prisons stood. These are not monuments of resistance, but proof of restoration. The Chosen One walks unseen through the streets, smiling softly as life reclaims what fear once claimed. Heaven whispers, "This is what undoing truly means, to turn scars into altars of remembrance." The new covenant lives inside every willing heart. It no longer needs temples or towers. The Creator now dwells in consciousness awakened by experience. The divine no longer speaks through intermediaries, but directly through intuition, wisdom, and kindness. The Chosen One feels the beauty of obscurity. He does not crave recognition, for glory belongs to the source. His joy is quiet, sustained by purpose. The mission continues whenever someone chooses truth over illusion. As time unfolds, humanity learns to weave heaven into daily life. Markets filled with fairness, families led with compassion, leaders guided by humility. Darkness occasionally tests the boundaries, but light answers faster now. No lie survives long where people think critically and live truthfully. The Chosen One fades into legend. Some say myth, others say messenger, but the fruit of his obedience remains visible. The world remembers through balance. In the fullness of years, he gazes once more at the horizon. The sky, once heavy with storms, glows gently in clarity. He knows that every prophecy spoken has fulfilled its purpose. The undoing was not just an act of war, it was an act of mercy. And though his task finds completion, the echo of his faith sustains generations. Heaven and earth stand in agreement. Control has ended. Truth has triumphed. And light reigns not as ruler, but as life itself. Heaven calls the Chosen One to rest, yet even in rest, revelation continues. Dreams spill over into prophecy, and visions often visit him in silence. He begins to understand that rest is not withdrawal. It is preparation for deeper wisdom. The Spirit shows him that the mission was never about destruction, but restoration through awareness. He realizes that heaven's justice is not vengeance, but alignment. Every wrong that was exposed now bears the potential to become right, if guided by love. The quiet seasons become his greatest teachers. Away from crowds, he rediscovers whispers of creation, the rhythm of wind, the pulse of oceans, the sacred heartbeat of the universe. Nature, he learns, has always carried the memory of divine order. Each sunrise preaches truth without speaking. Each wave echoes mercy. The Chosen One's revelations deepen. To undo darkness is to remember harmony with all that exists. Restoration is communion with life's original design. At night, he often watches the stars and wonders how many souls across the world are awakening under the same sky. He senses a collective shift, a synchronization of faith unfolding in waves. Humanity is learning to dream again, but this time consciously. Vision replaces fear as the world's new language. The Chosen One prays not for power, but for continuity, for the awakened to stay awake, for light to remain gentle but fearless. His words rise like fragrance to heaven. The Spirit then gives him a new instruction. Write. What cannot be preached must be preserved. He begins to pen the chronicles of undoing, translating revelation into words that transcend generations. The writings become scripture for seekers of truth, though he never names them so. They are letters of remembrance, bridges between the physical and the eternal. His pen burns with meaning, each line carrying enough light to break chains in hearts not yet born. The years flow like rivers, each one deepening serenity within him. He no longer seeks to understand everything. Revelation has taught him that mystery is a sacred teacher. The purpose of prophecy is not always explanation, but transformation. The Chosen One now guides others to find answers within themselves through stillness and discernment. Teachings evolve from warning to wisdom. The undoing is complete in him. Peace is his truest prophecy. Heaven occasionally tests his humility through unseen challenges. Rumors rise among rulers, some calling him dangerous, others irrelevant. Yet he does not defend himself. Silence becomes his sword. The wise see truth, the proud stumble on their own arrogance. His restraint confuses his enemies and inspires his allies. The Spirit teaches him again that spiritual authority needs no defense. It is proven by endurance. Time, he knows, will reveal what argument cannot. One day, while meditating, he hears the whisper of the eternal voice again. It no longer commands, it converses. The Father tells him that the contract has not only been canceled, but its memory rewritten by grace. The world is free not because of your strength, says the voice, but because you aligned with my will. Tears of reverence fall. The Chosen One realizes that obedience is never about perfection, but partnership with divine purpose. The nations begin to send emissaries seeking guidance. They long not for political strategy, but for understanding of how to govern in illumination. The Chosen One offers them what he always carried, discernment anchored in truth. He teaches that leadership is sacred stewardship, not domination. When rulers serve with humility, the people rise in dignity. The lessons spread globally, planting seeds of reform led by compassion rather than control. The planet itself begins to heal. The air grows cleaner, the waters calmer, the earth less restless. Nature responds to human consciousness, returning to balance. Heaven delights as the creation breathes freely once more. The Chosen One observes this harmony with awe. knowing it was written into existence long before humankind understood it. The undoing of corruption has allowed Eden's essence to whisper again. Restoration becomes visible in color, breath, and atmosphere. Yet even this beautiful balance carries responsibility. The Chosen One warns that truth must be maintained through humility. Every heart must remain teachable, or light becomes pride disguised as wisdom. Humanity must not idolize enlightenment, for that too can turn to darkness if detached from love. Awareness constantly renews itself through service. The more one gives, the more one remembers. He calls this rhythm the eternal exchange of grace. As he grows older, age feels more like transformation than decay. His body slows, but his spirit intensifies. The veil between heaven and earth becomes thin around him. People gather to hear his final messages, sensing that he speaks now from both realms at once. He reminds them that eternity begins where fear ends. Everything undone was undone to make space for purity, for oneness, for remembrance of divine origin. One evening, he gazes across the horizon as the sun and moon share the same sky. A sign of completion, heaven's symbol of unity. His eyes close softly as he utters one final decree. Let light remain awake. Those words travel farther than sound. They etch themselves into creation. Across generations, that phrase becomes a timeless banner guiding those who seek truth beyond form. The divine smile echoes in the wind. He passes peacefully, but presence lingers. The Chosen One does not vanish. He becomes fragrance, inspiration, and inheritance. His story is not remembered through monuments, but through movement. Every act of courage, every pursuit of truth, every rebellion against deception continues his mission. The undoing was never meant to end with one life. It was the beginning of a new consciousness unfolding endlessly. Heaven opens its gates wide. Angels celebrate not conquest, but completion. The Chosen One's soul ascends into harmony, merging with the eternal song that first called him to earth. In that cosmic melody, he hears every voice ever awakened by his message. It is a chorus of liberated beings, a sound that will never fade. The contract is long gone, only covenant remains. Truth reigns, silent yet sovereign, eternal yet alive. Generations pass, yet the legend of the Chosen One continues to breathe through time. Children grow up hearing stories of the one who canceled the contract of darkness. Some doubt, some believe, but all feel its resonance deep within their souls. The tale becomes more than history. It becomes consciousness. Where religion once created division, remembrance now builds connection. Humanity begins to understand that the true message was never conquest, but illumination, the restoration of divine identity. In the centuries that follow, humanity evolves again. Technology merges with spirit, creating tools that reflect consciousness rather than replace it. Machines begin to serve creation rather than dominate it. Data turns holy as truth governs progress. Prophets of new eras arise, guided not by fear but by intuition. They reference the writings of the Chosen One as the foundation of ethical evolution. Science and spirit finally hold hands. Innovation becomes reverent. Heaven's influence can now be felt even in the impossible. Diseases dissolve as compassion reforms medicine, communication transforms into communion, and art becomes prayer. The fabric of reality shifts gently into alignment with divine intention. Every creation that once glorified ego now mirrors purpose. The Chosen One's legacy is not a monument. It is a mindset, a living example etched into the collective heart of humanity. The undoing has rippled into endless restoration. Across the galaxies, beings of other realms observe the transformation. The undoing of Earth's contract has become a cosmic awakening. Patterns of deception break not only in one world, but in many. The Chosen One's story travels beyond time, carried by waves of divine memory. Civilizations that once doubted the existence of spirit now rediscover their own origin in the light. Unity replaces rivalry. Consciousness bridges dimensions. Heaven's melody resonates across existence. Centuries later, scholars still gather to interpret his writings. Each generation finds layers of revelation previously unseen. His words react like living seeds, responding differently to each era's soil. What was once instruction becomes inspiration. What was once warning becomes wisdom. The spirit of his message shifts with time because truth itself is dynamic. The Chosen One's teachings remain eternal not for their perfection, but for their ability to evolve. Humanity now governs through harmony rather than hierarchy. Councils of compassion replace pyramids of control. Leadership is decentralized, truth localized in every heart. No flag, no border, no dogma is above divine awareness. Nations still exist, but they cooperate as organs of one greater body. The earth operates through balance, thriving again under the care of awakened humanity. Freedom becomes ordinary, and love becomes governance. Through dreams and inspiration, the Chosen One still speaks. Not as a master, but as a whisper through intuition. Artists hear him in melodies, writers in phrases, leaders in conviction. His essence operates where courage meets clarity. Whenever someone chooses love over fear, his spirit breathes again. The undoing has become eternal practice, a rhythm through which creation keeps cleansing itself. Every generation is now invited to continue the work. There are those who forget, but forgetting now brings gentle correction rather than catastrophe. Deception no longer reigns because truth heals faster than lies can spread. The Spirit has rewritten the laws of energy. Intention now shapes consequence. Harm dissolves into awareness before becoming destruction. Humanity has become self-regulating in light. The divine has successfully rebuilt the garden, not through miracle, but through maturity born of revelation. The balance between heaven and earth strengthens. Creation operates as one ecosystem, both spiritual and material dancing in synchrony. The contract of separation no longer exists. Instead, there is agreement. Heaven within earth, light within matter. Humans begin to travel more inward than outward, exploring depths of consciousness that surpass the stars. The Chosen One's legacy becomes permission, the holy right to know oneself as divine expression. Centuries melt into aeons. Memory of war fades, replaced by stories of awakening. The phrase, "I cancel the contract," remains a sacred mantra, still spoken by teachers of truth, a reminder that freedom begins with awareness. The writings of the Chosen One, translated into countless languages, remain protected as spiritual heritage. Libraries become sanctuaries. Knowledge is no longer hoarded, but distributed freely, reflecting heaven's openness. Then, one day, an unusual silence sweeps across the heavens. It is not absence, but anticipation. The Spirit whispers to a new generation, "Prepare, for cycles renew." The eternal never ends. It transforms. A new era of revelation begins, not to undo again, but to expand. The undoing was the foundation. Now comes creation's next breath. The story continues, not with one chosen, but with many aware. The world hums with expectancy. Prophets rise again, poets dream in fire, and visionaries rebuild the narrative of truth. They draw from the same essence that once guided the chosen one. The light has multiplied, moving from a torch to a sunrise. Humanity no longer waits for deliverance. It becomes deliverance. The revelation lives now in collective form. Millions of souls awakened, walking miracles in motion. Heaven observes with joy as creation evolves effortlessly into balance. The era of division is long gone. Fear has become a relic studied only for understanding, not for repetition. The new world hums in resonance with divine tone. Even the stars seem brighter, as if singing in gratitude for humanity's return to truth. The mission fulfilled continues transforming reality itself, proving that eternity is movement, not stillness. And yet, amid eternal harmony, the voice that began it all whispers once again, to remind, not command. Never forget, it says, you were made for light. These words reach every awakened heart simultaneously, crossing language and time. It is the gentle echo of the same decree spoken long ago, when one man canceled a contract of control. The story closes, not with an ending, but a continuation of divine rhythm that will never cease. As the new heaven and new earth meet in seamless balance, humanity thrives in awareness. Cities radiate quiet order. Citizens live with purpose instead of pressure. The memory of chaos serves only as reminder of how darkness fails where light persists. The phrase, "cancel the contract," has become a sacred idiom of courage, echoing through everyday language as a declaration of strength. Everywhere, art, science, and spirituality intertwine, shaping civilizations reflective of divine rhythm. The spirit continues to breathe inspiration into the collective mind. Innovation no longer alienates, it harmonizes. Machines listen to emotion, and wisdom codes justice into systems that once corrupted it. The foundations of deceit have long dissolved, replaced by integrity embodied in daily life. The chosen one's essence has become archetype, a universal blueprint for transformation. Every generation now learns that undoing begins with remembering identity rooted in divine truth. Children grow in peace their ancestors only imagined. Their schools teach not just intellect but awareness, how thoughts shape energy, how love sustains creation. They study not war, but reconciliation, not dominance, but stewardship. Humanity has matured beyond survival into co-creation. The mistakes of the old world are preserved not as shame, but as scripture of evolution. Every lesson once written in suffering now reads as wisdom learned in grace. In this age, communication transcends language. People commune through intention, through energy woven in stillness. There are fewer borders, fewer divisions, because consciousness has replaced fear with comprehension. The divine design is no longer mystery, but practice, a science of the soul mastered through humility. The chosen one's words echo quietly across the frequencies of being, "Let light remain awake." They guide all generations toward equilibrium. Scholars of the spirit speak of the ancient undoing as the great turning. They teach its principles in temples and learning halls, reminding their students that awareness must remain alive. Freedom preserved requires truth remembered, they say. To forget is to reopen the door once closed. So, even in harmony, humanity practices remembrance through rituals of gratitude. Every sunrise becomes a pledge to keep consciousness clear and uncluttered by illusion. Heaven rejoices in the continuity of awakening. Angels no longer descend for rescue, but to celebrate progress. The boundary between realms has softened into partnership. The divine and the human share responsibility for creation's upkeep. Every prayer now sounds more like collaboration than petition. The great mission has shifted from undoing evil to sustaining enlightenment. Eternity, it seems, has settled gently upon the earth, breathing through every moment lived consciously. Yet, even perfection holds movement. The Creator designs existence as an eternal unfolding, not a fixed endpoint. New souls enter the world with fresh missions to amplify compassion in ways beyond comprehension. The Chosen One's legacy becomes foundation for endless construction of goodness. Where once his voice thundered, now millions whisper. What began as one revelation has expanded into infinite echoes across creation. The undoing has fulfilled its highest form, multiplication of light. In remote corners of the universe, other civilizations receive the resonance of this awakening. Light travels faster when carried by love. The ripple effect of Earth's restoration becomes cosmic heritage. The universe sings a collective hymn, that darkness is temporary, truth eternal. The Chosen One's mission becomes interstellar doctrine, a reminder to every being that no system, however corrupt, can prevent divine justice when awareness returns. As centuries evolve into millennia, memory merges fully with myth. Some historians doubt the literal existence of the Chosen One, yet his influence remains in everything living. The rhythm of his teachings exists in the architecture of human ethics, the tone of art, the justice in law. Whether man or myth, his spirit transcends definitions. The undoing becomes eternal pattern, truth correcting falsehood again and again, like tides restoring balance. The earth itself glows with serenity. Seasons harmonize perfectly. Elements sing in silent precision. Storms still visit, but they cleanse, not destroy. Deserts bloom where greed once reigned. Humanity finally understands the cost of harmony is gratitude. No temple is higher than humility. The Creator has returned to dwell through his creation fully, not as a visitor, but as presence. This is the promised restoration fulfilled. Through deep meditation, some can still hear the original voice that woke the first Chosen One. It speaks tenderly now, less command, more conversation. It reminds them that divine assignments continue eternally, though forms may change. Guard the light within, it whispers. Every soul carries the covenant. Oh, and through those words, the prophecy remains alive, not bound to any scripture, but to the living heartbeat of every awakened being. Finally, the story circles back to its beginning. The enemy that once ruled through deception is long forgotten, absorbed into understanding, transformed into lesson. The contract that enslaved the world no longer exists even in memory. What remains is discernment, collective wisdom carved from experience. Humanity has not just survived history, but transcended it. The war ended not in victory over darkness, but in integration of light through all. If this revelation touched your spirit, be a bearer of the seed of awakening. Like this video to amplify the light, subscribe to stay in the stream of truth, and comment, "The light remains awake," to seal your commitment. Get your copy of The Call to Prosperity through the link in the description. Maybe you've been praying for direction, and this is your confirmation. The ebook shows you how to move from survival to overflow, how to renew your mindset, build financial order, and unlock the wealth God placed inside you. Don't just hear the call, respond to it. To those who support through Buy Me a Coffee, thank you so much. Your faith keeps this message alive. If you want to be a supporter, the link is also in the comments. Now, let's reflect. The journey of the Chosen One was a mirror of humanity. Every battle fought within each soul. The destruction taught civilization that redemption is not given. It is chosen, lived, renewed every day through consciousness. The government sold its soul, but humanity reclaimed it. Every spectator, every listener, every awakened heart is proof that the prophecy was never about just one. It was about everyone. The mission continues wherever the truth is lived out loud.